What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Rec Tech on YouTube, now sponsored by our friends at Tauru. If you're looking for cans you can't find anywhere else, visit tauru.com. Today's episode features a demo and interview with JobTwine, a new AI interview platform. And joining me now from Northern Virginia is their founder and CEO, Vikrant Mahajan. Hey, Vikrant, how are you?
Hey Chris, I'm doing good. Thank
Nice
you
to
for
meet you
inviting
here.
me. Nice to meet you.
Before we talk about you see a demo of the product, stuff like that, let me ask you a few questions. What's the origin story of JobTwine here? When did you start and why?
Sure, Chris. I mean, the original story is interesting. I started somewhere early 2022, and prior to starting this, I was a CTO at a health tech company called Doc ASAP in Washington, D.C. We were a Series B funded company funded by Optum, got acquired by Optum in 2021. Prior to that, there was another company called Etcentive, where I was heading engineering for one of the product, which also got acquired by Optum in 2018. So working in these leadership roles in engineering and hiring people in a high growth startup environment, I realized that how painful it is to kind of do the conversations, do the interviews, at the same time scaling up the organization and building the product during those periods. So the teams were always stretched out, no matter how much training and coaching you gave about what interviews to do, how to ask, what to assess, what to get the feedback on. It was always a drag. And interestingly, what happened is 2019, 2020, if you recall, these AI conversation note-taking tools kind of started taking shape, and NLP started becoming mainstream. So that led me to kind of get to the idea that how can we kind of make these conversations that we do for hiring people in the organization, which is the most important thing for any leader to do. How can we make them much more structured, much more intelligent, take the challenging work out of the equation for the interviewers or to conducting those interviews, and make this much more streamlined, automated to an extent possible, from building the top of the funnel for the recruiters to the bottom of the funnel where the interviewers come in and people conduct those conversations, and eventually leading hiring managers to make the decisions that are more data backed, as opposed to being inconsistent, as opposed to just reading one line of feedback and not having to understand what the conversation was all about. So that is what kind of planted the seed, Chris. But as you know, like late 2022, ChatGPT got launched, and the world and the paradigm started changing quite a bit. And the last 2 years, majority of the work has been more towards voice agents, working through automating the initial layer, and so on and so forth. So that's been the quick journey.
Okay.
String one.
And at which stage are you right now? So you probably have a few customers. Have you explored funding yet, or what's your current status?
Yeah, so we have at currently we have a couple of customers in the US. We are running a couple of pilots with mid-size to large customers. Our focus ICP is mid-size. We are not, targeting the lower or the early stage startups. We have raised around $3 million till now, and we still call ourselves in pre-seed. And with Caitlin coming in and a couple of the go-to-market motion that we are doing. The goal is to kind of take this to the next level in the next 6 to 9 months.
Okay. And Vikram, what have you learned so far about recruiting with this startup? Like, has anything surprised you? Give me some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's changed dramatically in the last 2 to 3 years, Chris. I'm sure you have done so many podcasts and you would have seen yourself the advent of conversation intelligence becoming real. And more than conversation intelligence, the real voice agents coming into the fore has done two things. Number one, it has also increased the pain of the recruiters, primarily because the amount of CVs, the load of the CVs and the flood of CVs has increased dramatically. The
Yep.
quality of CVs has increased dramatically as well, which means that you just cannot rely on what you see on the paper. You have to pick up a phone and talk and do the conversation. And and the challenge is that as humans, you only have a limited number of hours to do those conversations. So while you want to give a fair chance to every single candidate that applies, it's humanly impossible now to kind of do those many conversations and kind of filter the fake from the real. And that's where the AI has become so powerful now, where the organizations have started realizing that it's just not possible to improve the processes and coach and train your people to do the right thing as the recruiters. It's important to kind of use AI as much as possible to filter those wrong profiles, but give them all of them a fair chance as well. So that's the shift that I'm seeing. But happy to talk about more.
Yeah. what kind of like when you're pitching this, like what kind of pushback do you get from employers? Like I was on LinkedIn the other day that someone talked about, are you scaring away top talent here by using AI interviews, right? What are your thoughts around that?
I think there are two critical things that I keep hearing constantly. One is the compliance part of it, which is like, how do you make sure that your models are not biased, that people are getting whatever is being said is being kind of probed properly so that you're giving the fair chance to the candidates. That's one thing. The second thing is more of a fear
Mm.
factor, Chris, to be honest. Suddenly a realization, hey, can AI really work like me? Can it do the job that I as a human can do and give and screen the candidate on? It's second one is more of a fear of the unknown than the reality. First one is still compliance related, which is real. And that's where people have to, or the organizations who are trying to do the experiment have to be very thoughtful on what kind of companies they're working with and do they have the right ecosystem in place to kind of be compliant to these things.
Yeah. Is there beyond that, is there any kind of myth or lie recruiters have been told about AI interviewing?
I think the biggest lie in the myth is that it's going to replace the recruiter. It's
Uh,
something that, they need to be fearful of their job. That's the biggest lie. What people that we're working with and leaders that are becoming more, thoughtful about using these things are see this as an enabler, not as a decision maker. What they're realizing is that the recruiters are kind of getting flooded, as we talked about, with tons of resumes. The resumes are looking great on paper, so how do you make a decision on who you want to talk to, who you don't want to talk to? So the key is building the top of the funnel, letting the AI do the clean part of it, checking the consistent signals or verifying whether the claim on the resume is matching what the candidate has in them or not. Once that verification is done, that's where the human in the loop then comes in as a recruiter to kind of look at that data point, look at the signals that the AI has given, and then do those human judgment and conversation so that they spend their time on something that is more powerful as a human, as opposed to spending time on scanning and screening the candidates and not coming to the value part of it. So
Vikram, what's the data telling you about all this stuff? Like how long are interviews taking? How many questions are asked? Do you have any data around that?
no, absolutely. So I think on an average, the conversation is 15 to 20 minutes, Chris, is the average time that we have taken, which is good enough to for a skilled worker to find the signals. The number of questions that are generally asked is kind of 8 to 10. Now, those 8 to 10 questions are not just simple, straightforward sequential questions. It's a mix of a question that you asked and the probing question on top of the question because based upon the answer that the candidate gave, the follow-ups and the probing, because these conversations are very human-like. They're not something which you just ask in, hey, question one, question two, question three, and then you keep moving on. So that's what we have seen. In the case of high volume, low skill case, even 10 minutes of average screening is good enough because what you're checking those in those cases are major signals about do they have the right attributes that you want to have in the person, including their basic checkpoints of the background and the profile. While
Yeah.
in the case of high skill, it's more about skill check and conversations that are more intelligent, and that's why it's 15 to 20 minutes.
All right. Let's bring on Caitlin Connor. She's going to give us a demo of the tool. While she's doing that, Vikrant, is this voice? Are you voice or video or both or
It's both. So it's an avatar, Chris. So we can actually create
avatar?
your avatar, and it's like Chris talking to a candidate in a human-like manner. So
Okay. I'm curious to
avatar
see this
based,
then. Yeah.
sure.
I will say the avatars I've seen so far, it seems kind of laggy a little bit, maybe. I haven't been that impressed by others in the space. So let's see what you guys have here. And Caitlin's going to kick this off here. So go ahead,
Sure.
Caitlin, take it away.
All right, perfect. Good call, Chris, with the lag. That's something we work on all the time. And to make sure that this minute the candidate gets on, and instantly the conversation seems natural. They're talking, they know it's an AI avatar. And like Vikrant mentioned, the AI avatars can be customized. So what you guys are seeing on your screen is what our clients will see. They will customize AI avatars to the hiring manager, to the recruiter, sometimes even to the CEO. But if someone's not comfortable with the avatar or they want to A/B test, we also can do voice only or actually just co-pilot with human interviews. Sometimes people like to do a phase one where they like their recruiters to do the live interviews on Zoom or on Teams. And then we have a co-pilot that keeps them compliant and nudges them to probe deeper when a candidate's kind of skirting the issue. So this is a quite simple system that you come in. You do not need to create the questions. As you can imagine, as an AI company, it's all done for you, although you can
Mhm.
customize it. All you need to do is put in what job description you have, or even if you don't even want to be that work that hard and you want to be a little lazy, you can actually just put in the title full stack engineer and click create job. And you can see here it's going to analyze, ingest the job parameters, and what it's going to give you in layman's terms is a job that is set up by skills based on all of the titles for full stack engineer, physical therapist, whatever it is that you're hiring for. It will actually create those questions as you see here. So here I did a photonics engineer
Mhm.
role for one of my tech clients. I can have the introduction here, parsing by bulk for candidates. So say, hey, Caitlin, I need this integrated with my ATS with Greenhouse. Every single candidate that applies, I want them to get an auto schedule link. Perfect. That means thousands and thousands or hundreds and hundreds of people will get customized messages from the avatar. It'll say, hey, Chris, this is Caitlin. I'm your AI interviewer with Amazon. Let's get into it. I can
Gotcha.
turn on and off screening questions for resumes. Hey, Chris, I saw on your resume that you just joined Direct Tech 5 years ago. Tell me a little bit about that. We can do that or we can turn it off. It has everyone's resume, especially if it's integrated with the ATS. I'm going to skip real quickly to core competency. This is where everyone gets excited on the demos. It pulled in what a photonics engineer should be doing at a semiconductor global company. Optical design, photonic simulation, fiber optics, laser tech. Now, that is from the client's job description, or it's also recommending, hey, you don't have this in your job description, but you also need to probably nudge them a little bit on clean room operations and diffraction theory. Great. Now it's even better than a possible recruiter.
Mhm.
Um, Chris, one of the values we missed is not only do people want to in healthcare and some other frontline industries, they need to do their interviews on Saturday or at 2 a.m. in the morning. But the other thing is the recruiter sometimes cannot meet the person to the level that they are, especially in tech roles, to be able to probe them deep to be asking the questions you see on the screen. So a lot of my companies just think Raytheon, Lockheed, they'll turn these questions onto hard, and they'll actually generate harder questions because the AI can push these people to a place that a recruiter would not be able to push them. So I'm going to keep this on hard questions. I'm going to keep these four skills on. That's it. I go to conclusion. I'm all done. Now, if this is integrated with the ATS, what's going to happen is all of those interviews can be set up right through the ATS. You could see here, I could bulk upload all of the CVs, all of the resumes if I'm not in the ATS, and then everyone's going to get an email. And then in their own time, their interview. What's gonna happen is no recruiter will have to sit at the desk from 9 to 5. Today's Wednesday, June 24th. What happens is I want the recruiter to come in on Monday
Mhm.
and see exactly who they need to talk to. Here they are. People who are
Caitlin, what's
recommended and
what's
not.
the completion rate of that email?
I don't know.
It's
Vikrant.
it's approximately 60%, Chris.
60%. Okay.
55%, yeah. So that's where, what we have seen is while we give them nudges, we send them reminders. That's where, again, the role of a human recruiter comes in, where they have to kind of, warm that up to the candidate to say, hey, you know what, we
Yep.
sent the note, please do this and do that. And that's where the human role also becomes important once again. And Caitlin, if you can
Yeah.
show how the avatars are selected.
Perfect. I'll show you how the avatars are selected, and then we'll come back to this screen, which is what the recruiters will see in terms of who is going to waste my time and who's not, so we can get those
Yeah.
offer letters out pretty quickly. I also want to say a lot of companies use this, but a lot of agencies and staffing companies use this
Hmm.
as well as white labeling. So there's some background check companies or people like that who want to white label this, and all of that is absolutely possible. So here, my photonics engineer for my semiconductor company has to speak Mandarin. So here are my avatar options. You'll see I'm here on the top left. Chris, we can make an avatar of you. We can make an avatar of anyone. You can tell the background is also put into place, but not just the avatar looking like a real person, but watch when we
Okay.
select.
So, quick question on that. Are your clients opting to use their own recruiters' faces or no?
Yes, they
They are.
prefer
Okay.
it.
They prefer.
They want it to be as customized as possible. And what they like to do is say, hey, we are going to do this interview, this AI interview. However, you will be meeting this person. Once this comes through, you will be meeting them in person for your second round interviews. And then it seems less like an AI tool and more of something customized to the actual company culture, especially
Right.
with the
Yeah.
backgrounds.
No, that's key, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay, I picked myself, and I just want to show you something pretty cool. Not only is this 24/7, it's also 32 languages, but regions and dialects. When I'm talking to global companies, you can see here, they don't want Spanish avatars. They want Spanish avatars that have a specific accent from a specific region. You guys know the Portuguese in Brazil is different than the Portuguese in Portugal. So this is,
Hmm.
we're trying to get as specific as possible. We're not pretending that these are real people. They know it's AI, but now the speaker, you can see here, can speak at a slow or fast pace. You can tell I'm a fast-paced speaker. Engineers, people in tech, they prefer that. And not only is it matching their speed and it looks like the real person with the real background, but now it's the actual dialect of, there's 90 dialects of Mandarin, for example. So that becomes pretty important.
Yeah, very cool.
Cool. The last thing I'll show you, and then I'll give you back to Vikrant, is one of my favorite things. This is the scorecard. It will be in the ATS if you guys want it like that. It's saying how well did they answer those really, really hard questions, but also, Chris, I don't know if you are into this now, but everyone is talking about fraud detection.
Yes.
Um, Perfect. So there's fraud detection in terms of background checks, which is very expensive. You're not going to run background checks on thousands of frontline employees. It's going to be too expensive. So we do a little fraud detection as a phase one, which is why we like to partner with background check companies. Our
Hmm.
phase one is this person using ChatGPT on the even video, audio only? Does the answer sound like they used LLM? Did they change tabs? Did they do anything suspicious? Let me take a picture. As you can see here, I am. Is it the same person in the frame the whole time, or was their
Hmm.
dad or their husband coming in to whisper in their ear how to answer it? Was their camera on? So we do
Hmm.
little things like that. That did they answer the questions, but also did they open a tab to perplexity? So that's quite interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Um, Last thing I'll show you is something that I just got an email about today. It was super
Are
important.
you
So
guys on that fraud part, Caitlin? What are you guys seeing as far as fraud? Like, what are people doing? They
I think the
shouldn't
majority
be.
of the thing is people are cheating through LLMs. So when they're doing these conversations, they have another window open or they have, their phone listening to the question,
Oh yeah.
immediately coming with the answer, and then doing the eye movement to kind of read the answer. And that's what can you we capture those eye movements. It, while during the conversation, Chris, it will prompt you if your eye movement is different. It will give you an immediate message to say, can you please look into the screen? And we'll capture that moment. Not just that, based upon the answer that you're giving, when people are giving very smooth answers, which sounds more like, reading through something, it captures those and it gives you a suspicion score of 75%, 80% with the realistic details about all of these words that were spoken were not with very less pauses. There were no, filler words in between. It seemed very smooth, which means that it must be getting read from somewhere. And all, not just that, it also captures whether it is ABC, LLM, or whatever LLM it is. So all of those things have been very nicely embedded into this. And that's where we are seeing that conversations are becoming really critical. But at the same time, capturing these signals is also super critical now in all these conversations.
perfect. Last thing I'll show you is something that someone asked me today. I get this question almost every day. In
Hmm.
the ATS integration, you can imagine we already have the transcript of all of these interviews. The next thing we do that recruiters love is their surveys that they have to fill out on the candidates, the feedback. It auto-populates based on the transcript, all of the answers. So they can just click a button and say, yep, this person can manage competing priorities. It says, please explain. Bam, there's the explanation. So what's happening is surveys, TA managers and hiring managers love it because surveys are coming back quicker.
Hmm. Very cool.
What
Well, thank
Caitlin
you,
showed
Caitlin.
you is that within that, no matter what ATS you're using, every ATS has its scorecard, which is a standard static form. But our AI, once you take the interview, it's intelligent to read and scan that form for every title of that form, where you're saying you're capturing leadership skills or technical skills or system design skills. It will run through the transcription and generate that summary feedback for you right in there in that particular form itself. So you as a human don't have to kind of enter, make your notes. This is the co-pilot part where the human to human conversation is happening. So for example, we are on Zoom call right now. If you are taking my interview as an interviewer, our co-pilot will embed itself inside the Zoom and nudge you and coach you and guide you on what questions you should be asking or skills you should be assessing on Vikrant based upon what your hiring manager wants you to do. So that way, the consistency is hugely super powerful because in a large organization or a mid-sized organization, if you're a hiring manager, you can only control this much about the conversation that is happening, no matter how much training you give. But with this, if you have 10 interviewers conducting those interviews, you know that all those 10 interviewers are being nudged and coached and guided in real time on what the hiring manager really wants. And all of
Yeah.
that fits seamlessly into the ATS.
Yeah. Vikrant, do you see a day when the job seeker, the candidate, has their own agent as well, and all this stuff is sort of happening in the background with no
That's a
human?
great question. We have done POCs. We are seeing some deep fakes coming in, Chris, where the candidates are like, instead of a candidate speaking, it's an AI version of the candidate trying to come in. But it's still, I think it's still far away, to be honest, Chris, because of the lag and the complexity that is there behind the scene to really answer in real time these questions with the probing capability, with kind of instant uh, zero lag responses. These deepfakes are still not there. You can program them to a certain specific degree, but you cannot program them to a live conversation that happens. But I mean, that day is not going to be far when this technology is moving at such a fast pace that these deepfakes will become real. And that's where these platforms like ours become more important because then you have to kind of judge those deepfakes and figure out that, okay, this was not a human talking. This was a version of a human talking as a candidate.
JobTwine.com is the URL for the viewers out there. Last question for you, Vikrant. What's your biggest challenge right now running this company?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. There are many challenges, as you can imagine, Chris. I think
Yeah.
the biggest challenge is kind of building that thought leadership, building that, kind of removing the fear factor out of this. While there is an adoption curve that is increasing, to be honest, a year ago, this was more in experimental phase. Now I see people adopting this. But we were at Shrum conference, Caitlin and I, just last week in Orlando, and we had a lot of people coming over and asking, getting excited by this, but at the same time becoming skeptical to say, hey, can this really do what you're saying? Oh my God, this is going to be fearful for my team. If I, like VP of TA, one of the VP of TA of a vet hospital came over, Chris, running like I think in South Florida with a 250 people hospital chain.
Mhm.
And her first remark was, I want to do this, but if I bring this to my recruitment team, they're going to be more fearful of the fact that maybe I'm replacing them in the next 6 months. So how do I make them adopt this is a key question. So that knowledge, that thought leadership, where people like, that's where, Chris, this podcast becomes important. And how do we kind of percolate this knowledge to the
Yeah, educating the market, and that's kind of why
market?
I started RegTech Media to inform the modern recruiter out there about what's happening, what's changing. And
Right.
yeah, Vikrant, certainly appreciate the time today, and looks like a cool product. Good luck to you guys, and stay in touch.
Thank you so much for giving the time, Chris. I appreciate it.
All right,
Bye.
thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time on the RegTech on YouTube. See you later.
Bye.